So recently, film has gotten really trendy. Maybe it was over COVID or before that, I don't really know. But I've been shooting photos and video for like over a decade. And in about the last 2 years, I've started shooting on point and shoot film. Before that, for years and years and years, I was shooting on just disposables. Side note, I wish I would have thought about upgrading a way long time ago, because now all the film cameras are super expensive. But I love shooting film. I hardly ever shoot on my phone anymore. That's why I use this Digicam for most of my stuff. I really don't use my big camera, even though I have really nice big cameras. I just love film, and so I've been shooting tons of film this year and recently. And so I wanted to hop on here and kind of share 3 tips for what you're probably not doing with your film, because I interact with a lot of people that now shoot film or are thinking about shooting film, and these are things that they don't think about or that they haven't tried yet. So this video, we're going to cover 3 things that if you're shooting film, you should try out and do. First things first. The most important thing, and one of the probably coolest things about film, is actually printing out your film. So you can, yes, of course, get digital copies of your film, but one thing that I highly recommend is actually printing your photos. And before you ever look at them on a screen, look at them, hold them, print out your photos, get them developed, get the 3.5 by 5s, the 4 by 6, and actually like hold your photos and flip through them, because the feeling that you'll get when you hold your memories versus scrolling on your memories or clicking or just like looking at them on a screen is so much different. Like, I cannot explain the feeling of going to the store, picking up your film and holding your photos for the first time. And surprisingly, like, a lot of people I talk to don't do this. They get them developed, they look at the digital files that the camera store sends them, and they don't actually print them out. But trust me here, do not look at the digitals before you hold your photos. It's the best feeling. Last year I went on a trip and I traveled all around the world. I was gone for 9 months, traveled to 14 countries. It was one of the coolest experiences. And I took my film camera. It was a new camera, a Canon, like basically the Sure Shot with a zoom. It was the most basic camera you could buy, about 50 bucks. And I took it on this trip. And for developing film internationally is a whole other story. If you're going and traveling, I highly suggest taking a film camera. But after about 2 months of traveling or so, I finally got to Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam, and had the opportunity to develop my film really for the first time, because before this, they didn't have it in Thailand, they didn't have it in these other places. I was moving too fast and I didn't have a chance to develop them. So I finally in Ho Chi Minh got them developed, and I was driving from Ho Chi Minh to Vĩnh Long, which is outside on the Mekong Delta, and I had about a 2-hour drive, and I picked up my film right before I got into this bus, cram bus of course. And the feeling of flipping through, I swear I looked at these 2 rolls of film probably for 2 hours straight. It was literally the entire drive I was driving, and I was just like flipping through and looking at the memories like over and over and over and over. I didn't listen to music, I was on my phone, I never have data, so that would have been useless anyway. But I literally just like absorbed these memories through holding them, and it was one of the coolest things. And after that, I'm never looking at the digitals again first. Like, that was like the coolest experience. And so now, still to this day, I just always, to kind of tap into that old feeling, I always look at and hold and flip through photos before I look at them on digital.
So why do you like film?
Why do I like film? I like film because it captures like a moment in time where you just get one button click. It's not like a digital one where you're click, 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 click. It's like you get one, and then it's like stamped physically. And every time you pull out that memory, you like actually hold it, because a part of it is not just like taking the photo, but it's like holding the photo. It's not scrolling, you're not clicking the photo, you're actually like holding that memory. And that whole experience, taking it, really valuing it as like a very specific moment, and then also afterwards getting able to relive that moment by holding it is just so special. Alright, so you're gonna print out your film, but then you have like an immense amount of photos. Like this whole thing is filled. You know, each roll is like 36, so let's say you shoot, you know, a roll a week, or maybe 3 rolls a month, that's 100 a month, and then all of a sudden you shoot for 3 months, that's 300, and then half a year later you have probably 1,000 photos, or whatever that number is. So you're gonna have a bunch of photos. What do you do with them all? Photo albums. Photo albums, check this out. These are my photos from traveling. So when I got back, these are what I put together. And like this is, for example, Jordan, which is amazing. I mean, look at some of these photos, like insane. And I got all these developed in Egypt. So, you know, from Egypt, this is all from Jordan, black and white from Egypt. I mean, look at these, this is crazy. This is black and white from Albania. Like, this feeling of like flipping through your photos and having them all organized into like literally a full story of your experiences in your life is like, it's nostalgic. And especially if you're probably born in the 80s or 90s, who knows, you might be watching this born before that, maybe a little bit after that, but if you're born in the 80s and 90s, you're most likely your parents took a lot of film of you. Maybe you have some photos, maybe you have photo albums from growing up, and when you go back home, you look at your photos and it gives you like this certain feeling of like, I don't know, like nostalgia, like time traveling. That's how it feels when you put your film into a photo album, but like right now, like it's this weird feeling of like, kind of like time traveling, but like you only time travel back a month or 2 or 3 months. And it really tells this story about your life and captures things that it doesn't capture on digital. It's just not the same when you take a photo and you have 1,000 photos from your trip and you're like scrolling through 1,000,000 photos. You never look at them. There's 1,000,000 of the same shot. You just get overloaded. But when you put them into a very organized way of viewing them, it totally changes the experience. So these are like 15 bucks on Amazon. I'll link them down below. Grab some photo albums and organize them. It's gonna take a freaking long time. So like, I have no idea how long these took, but it took a long time. This one is the bigger one. I kind of recommend getting the bigger one because especially if you shoot 4x6, they're gonna fit in better, right? So you're gonna have more space to fit everything versus if you have like the smaller ones, they don't fit as well. But yeah, it's gonna take a long time. But that's also like part of the experience, is when you're sitting here and you're like putting them together, you're telling the story, you're figuring out which ones go together, how do you organize them. Like that's part of the memory. And when you're shooting, when you're like using film and you're using like analog that you're holding, it's like a different type of storytelling. You're like rewriting the memory. So if you're gonna shoot film, highly suggest putting them into a photo album, and then once you have it, it's done. It's ready to go, it's there forever, and you can flip through it for years and it'll teleport you right back to that time. This is also a neat organizer that my mom got me because she has a lot of film from us growing up, and these are just kind of easy ways to stay organized. Of course, keep the negatives, even though most likely we'll never need them. But all of these are just kind of a nice way to keep everything organized. But as you can tell, they're like almost all filled up. So The last thing that I would recommend that you do for your film is something that it's one of the most special feelings to me actually, is taking photos of people and giving them the film photo, because it's something about it super special where you thought to take a photo of somebody and you printed it out and then you give it to them and they value it so much. It's like the coolest gift. I always like joke, it's one of my love languages, is giving people, it's like taking photos of people, taking film photos of people and giving it to them. And I've go to a lot of my friends' houses and their refrigerators have photos that I took of them on film up on their refrigerator, framed in their house, and it's honestly just like a really special thing, taking photos of people and gifting it. So that's what the third thing I would say. And now one thing that I'm taking this like a couple steps further, because usually I give it to them in person and I write a note on the back, is definitely a piece of it. But the third thing that I'm trying to now do, actually mailing people the photos and writing notes on the back. But you need these special envelopes. They're a little bit thicker. You can't use like a normal envelope. They're gonna fold and get messed up and wrinkle and stuff. So you need to get photo mailers. But yeah, take the time to write someone a note on the back of it, drop it in a mailer, hit them with the old school snail mail, and you're able to share that feeling of that I'm able to share that feeling of like looking at film and holding it and that whole memory. But you can gift that feeling, which is so special. So the third thing that I would highly recommend doing is printing out the photos and actually giving them to people. Okay, so my 3 tips. If you're new to film, or maybe you've been shooting a while and you haven't thought about these, but print them out. Yes, it's expensive, but it's not as expensive as getting them enveloped. So print them out and then put them in a photo album so you can flip through them really easily and you can have these like very organized memories documented. You can flip through them, you can show it to people. And then the third is to gift photos to people, and you can mail them in these envelopes and you can share that feeling of film with other people, and they'll appreciate it. So I'm talking to a lot of people about film stuff recently, and these are my 3 tips that I think will elevate everybody's film experience. So I don't know, are you doing this? Is this your idea? Is this how you think about film? Drop me some comments below. Let me know if you have any other tips about what you should do with film for beginners. But definitely recommend you shoot film and feel that analog. It's a really great feeling. Thanks for watching.